The space around me is strange and unrecognizable. I'm unsure how I ended up here. On either side, I notice sleek concrete walls painted a soft ivory hue. Directly in front of me, there's a long silver mirror that spans the entire wall horizontally. Curiously, instead of feeling frantic, I remain calm. A gentle hum in my chest prevents me from overthinking my predicament, and warmth envelops my body, almost like I'm experiencing a fever. Dominating the room is a stainless steel table that takes up most of the space. Its surface is smooth and free of any blemishes. Opposite it sits a chair made from the same shiny material. A quiet voice within me suggests, "This must be an interrogation room." I recall being in a similar situation once when I was 19. My roommate was selling small amounts of cocaine from our dorm to partygoers on Sundays. A freshman tipped off the authorities, and suddenly, I was on the verge of expulsion from college. My thoughts began racing. Hold on a second. Where am I? My heart started racing again. I attempted to turn my head, but it felt rigid, as if I were lifeless. My muscles were tense and strained. When I tried to rise, I realized my knees were stuck to the chair legs. They felt weak, like jelly, and I sensed I couldn't put any weight on them. My arms dangled loosely, and as I contemplated this, I felt blood rushing to my hands, causing a sharp pain. My voice felt silenced, leaving me only able to take deep breaths. However, I could still blink, so I began blinking rapidly, perhaps just to reassure myself that I wasn't merely a lifeless shell. In the hazy moments between my blinks, I noticed someone materialize in the seat right in front of me. My still drowsy brain struggled to catch up, but when it finally did, my heart raced wildly. Once again, I attempted to utter a word, but no sound came out. As my vision cleared, I began to discern the features of the person before me. He appeared to be a tall, slender man, likely around 6 feet in height. Dressed in a fitted black blazer over a white dress shirt, he sported dark sunglasses that bore no recognizable logo. His hair was cut short in a military style, and while it looked black, it might have been a very dark brown. Without that suit, he'd resemble a tightly wrapped skeleton, I mused, and I wasn't mistaken. Upon closer examination, his arms seemed alarmingly thin, almost cartoonishly so. The details of his face were hard to articulate. He wore a blank expression that made it difficult to gauge his age or origin. His complexion was pale, giving the impression that there was no blood flowing through his skin. Out of nowhere, color returned to his face. His demeanor shifted from somber to cheerful and radiant. "Hello, Mr. Garcia. How are you on this lovely day?" he greeted. I was left utterly speechless. He glanced at me for a moment before realizing his error. "My apologies. I forget your circumstances. Old habits die hard, right?" I remained at a loss for words. "Cat got your tongue? Just teasing? If you're curious about where you are, which I'm sure you are, there's no need to fret. It may seem a bit silly to say this, especially since we've brought you here wherever here is, but rest assured you're safe. It's just the two of us in this space." Finally, my ability to speak returned, but when I tried, all that emerged was a jumbled mix of sounds. "Please don't try to talk just yet. We've just restored your ability to speak. You'll be able to communicate normally again soon. This isn't permanent, but your mind needs to reacquaint itself with how to converse like everyone else." Forget you, I thought. The swirling thoughts of why I was in this place, what had happened to me, and my inability to move began to fade away. All that occupied my mind was the mystery of how this man managed to enter the room. "How did you get in here?" I stammered. It seemed he wasn't one to take advice easily. "Is he angry with me?" His tone was sharp, and for a brief moment I sensed that this man could be a threat. I got in here just like anyone else, through the door, but there was no door in sight, and I seriously doubted it was concealed behind the mirror. He had simply materialized out of nowhere. "You, Mr. Garcia, are here for a little experiment. You were found at a bar in Miami, completely intoxicated, and I heard you attempted to assault one of our officers. But that's irrelevant now. You're here. You've been chosen to participate in an experiment conducted by, Well, I'll let you figure that out. I felt my mouth move again. Listen, I don't know who you are, but I refuse to be part of your bizarre experiment. I don't consent, okay? So you can't do this. Just let me go. There are people who will notice if I disappear, and they'll call the cops on you. And You have no family, Mr. Garcia. Your mother died of cardiac arrest 5 years ago. Your father abandoned you when you were 13. Your brother tragically passed away in a car accident last month, which is why you were drowning your sorrows. 10 shots of whiskey when we found you. Your ex-girlfriend moved to Atlanta 5 months ago and is currently seeing a Starbucks barista. You're a drifter, a nobody. No one knows you're missing. You're not affiliated with any groups, have no friends, no colleagues, nothing. He leaned closer, his breath icy and his expression devoid of warmth. You have nothing, which is precisely why you were chosen for this experiment. Then he reclined back. But hey, you're here now. This is your chance to finally become something meaningful by serving a greater purpose. I was terrified. Absolutely terrified. What do you want from me, man? I'll do anything. Just please don't hurt me, okay? I really don't want any trouble. With you or whoever you're associated with. That's wise. Very clever. You're already impressing me, Mr. Garcia. He pulled up his sleeve to check what appeared to be nothing. He stared at his wrist as if he were looking at a watch or a bracelet. This guy is out of his mind. All right, here's the situation. I'm going to say a word and I need you to tell me what you see. The word can be anything, but I want you to describe exactly what's in front of you. Share every detail down to the tiniest point and don't stop talking. His voice dropped, making it clear how serious this was. Do you get it? Yes. Good. He cleared his throat. Cipher 1. Pyramids. I glanced around. My head was free to move again, so I took my time to survey the room. I don't see anything unusual. It's just a plain white room. A table in front of me. A strange guy standing there. Tall, wearing glasses and a suit. There's a bright light above me and a mirror behind you that I think is one way. Stop. I halted my speech. Cipher 2. Dangerous. The lights went out. For a moment, everything was pitch black, but my eyes gradually adjusted. The room was now dark, yet nothing had changed. The guy was still in front of me, and I paused. I didn't intend to stop. I remembered he told me not to, but I couldn't continue. The man seemed taller. His head was almost brushing against the ceiling, but he didn't appear to notice anything. As I focused on him, he growled, "Keep talking." His previously friendly demeanor vanished. I fumbled over my words. "Cease, sorry, my mistake. It's just that you've gotten taller. Before, you were 6 feet, but now it looks like you're about to hit the roof of this place. What the hell did you give me? Stop." I fell silent again, but I was freaked out. People don't just change like that, Isaac. You know it. Cipher 3. Meringue. The walls started to undulate as if a pebble had been tossed into a water balloon. They were shifting, creating small ripples across their surface. Just gazing at it made me feel queasy. I was starting to feel a bit ill, but whatever. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed something beginning to stir. Something's moving, and it's definitely not you. It's dark, positioned to my left and rather large. What on earth is that? The moving object halted, yet it remained visible. It had a pointed shape, like a triangle appearing sharp or something similar. Stop. I kept my gaze fixed on that thing in the corner. It's just an illusion. One of those phantoms they discuss on TV with those doctors warning about the perils of drug use. Still, I bit down on my cheek. Cipher 3. Lamp. The entity in the corner receded, and I felt a wave of relief. The shape had vanished. I turned my attention back to the man. He still appeared unchanged, though he seemed unusually tall. Wait a minute. Did you take off your glasses? They're missing. You've got some unsettling eyes, man. You might want to get that examined. They were red, as if he had been crying, which starkly contrasted with his current demeanor. Something stirring behind you again. The two triangular shapes reappeared, and they looked like they were connected to a person. I think it's a guy. I can't see much, but he has those sharp-looking triangles again, looking very straight and precise. Stop. The figure froze once more. The man in the suit across from me flashed a smile. Last one, Isaac. Are you ready? His voice sounded distant, as if submerged underwater. Sure, whatever gets me out of here faster, I replied. All right, Cipher 4, body. The dark figure behind him smoothly rose into view, revealing its face. What on earth is that thing? Oh my God. Keep talking. Keep talking. Keep talking. Shut up. You know you're not leaving this place, right? What? You're such an idiot. I stumbled over my words, but the creature continued to advance. It climbed onto the man's shoulders, sinking into his chest and causing blood to splatter his suit, yet he showed no sign of distress. Its talons resembled those of an eagle, while its hands were human-like. There were no eyes, just smooth black, skin stretched over deep sockets in its skull. Stop this nonsense now, I'm serious, I've had enough. I won't go any further, I'm done, I'm… Cipher 5, monster. Do you have monsters hiding under your bed, Isaac? Cipher 10, dead. You're going to be dead soon. Cipher 812, pigeon. Cipher 17, McDonald's. The man was clearly losing his grip on reality, and the figure behind him began to crawl across the table. Its mouth was filled with sharp, serrated teeth like those of a tiger shark, wide open and silent. If it made any sound, I couldn't hear it over the man's relentless recitation of ciphers. Cipher 1560. Guitar scale. House apartment stand teacup elementary rose tissue. The table seemed to stretch endlessly before me as the creature drew nearer, scrambling and climbing, relentlessly pursuing me. Move! 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 You need to get away. If you don't, you'll die. That thing is going to kill you right now, right now. Move! My body remained paralyzed, frozen like a statue, while the monster continued its approach, shifting from crawling to galloping like a horse. The suited man felt light years away, still speaking to me as if I were present. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. The creature was suddenly inches from my face. I could hear it scream, a cacophony of 1,000 men pleading for death, echoing like every dog that had ever been run over, and my heart began to ache. The monster lunged at me, and I felt a piercing pain in my heart. My final breath caught in my throat. It felt like the music was coursing through her veins. It thumped down onto her shoulders, resonating in her ribs and pulling her into a rhythm she hadn't realized she had been missing for so many years. It wasn't just about the music. It was also about the moment of exasperated acceptance from just hours before, when she finally acknowledged that she deserved a break. Now, here she was, with the music alive within her, her body free from the constraints of her mind, and for the first time in ages, she let go of her thoughts. The sounds transformed into mere vibrations, creating an indistinct wall of tone set against a backdrop of swirling colors and lights. A comforting cocoon filled with intense peace, rage, warmth, and deep joy. She gently brought her focus back to herself, wanting to relish this experience. She reminded herself that she had every right to enjoy this moment. After all, isn't that what life is really about? All the struggles, the courageous choice to reach out for help, and the community she had built around her. Who had she been? During those challenging years, reflecting on her younger self, she didn't see the resilience that had been forged through her experiences. Instead of a weakling, she recognized someone far removed from who she had become. Now, as she looked at herself, she felt whole, yet ready to evolve into something new, something she wasn't sure she understood in this very moment. Perhaps the unexpected nature of it all played a role in her overwhelming reaction. If she had anticipated it, maybe she would have retreated or surrendered, but she hadn't seen it coming. It struck her swiftly and powerfully from every angle, leaving her with no choice but to respond with something. Now fully aware of her surroundings, Ashanti lifted her arms, dancing more intentionally and signaling for her friends to notice her. She had distanced herself from the group, caught up in the realization of her newfound freedom, Amidst the chaos and energy of the dance floor, her friends kept a watchful eye on her, unaware of her recent challenges and triumphs, oblivious to the fact that she was also looking out for them in return. Ashanti focused intently on her friends, executing a spin move as she danced her way toward the bar where they were gathered. "What are you up to? Come join me," she called out, nodding her head back in the direction she had come from. For a brief moment, she pondered how they had ended up apart, but quickly dismissed it, attributing it to the thrill of the night. Sam leaped forward, grooving her way over to Ashanti. She had her right hand clenched tightly around something small, keeping it close to her chest as she approached. Ashanti noticed Sam's eagerness to draw attention to her hand, with a big goofy grin plastered on her face and her eyes flitting between her hand and Ashanti. "Come with me to the bathroom," she exclaimed, then added in a slightly quieter tone, "Let's get right, and then come back out here to grab it." Naturally, Sam was known for having access to whatever fun they might need, something they had once discussed during a DARE assembly. Any thoughts Ashanti had about accepting what Sam was offering flashed through her mind so quickly that she questioned if they had even happened at all. It was like another gear shifting into place, prompted by the one next to it. And just like that, Ashanti was off, gliding across the dance floor in the wake of Sam's energetic presence. Sam's blonde and red hair bounced under the lights, creating a vibrant spectacle. As Ashanti tilted her head, she admired her own braids dancing gracefully around her crown. She also took a moment to appreciate her hands glimmering under the lights, strong and skilled, with newly manicured golden tips that beautifully contrasted against her brown skin. In that moment, she felt completely alive, as if the world could almost see her radiance. When she regained consciousness, her hands rested on her knees and her breath came in heavy gasps. She felt disoriented. Her throat was tight and swollen. Concentrating on her breathing, she envisioned wind whistling through a narrow gap between rocks, a gap that might offer safety to something outside, yet it was just too small. Still, she could breathe. She focused intently. The music seeped through the walls, resonating from deep within her, igniting a fire that surged up her chest and burst from her head. She could handle this. Where was Sam? What had she taken? And why was she alone in this stall? "Sam?" No answer. "Sammy, where are you?" She stepped out of the stall and glanced left and right. There was no one around. It wasn't just that she couldn't see anyone. She could feel the absence of people. She found herself staring at the far wall for what seemed like hours until she finally broke free from her daze. She pondered what substance she had consumed. She felt warm and fuzzy, yet empty, likely due to hunger. The music continued to drone on, unpleasant yet tolerable. She knew she needed to leave soon. That familiar feeling of isolation washed over her in the bathroom. She became acutely aware of her solitude, and for a brief moment, she experienced something entirely new. Standing there, accomplished and high, Ashanti felt beautiful and strong, but never before had she felt so much like prey. The intensity of that sensation was short-lived, yet it left a lasting mark on her soul that would linger forever. "Sam?" She moved toward the door with determination. "Just get back to people," she thought. "Everything is okay." Here comes Sam, weaving through the crowd. Her gaze is fixed straight ahead. "Sam!" she called out, her eyes drifting before finally locking onto her friend. Sam looked confused and irritated. She took another step toward the bathroom, but then their eyes met again. "What?" Sam replied, almost dismissively. "Sam, what's happening?" Ashanti began to inquire. Sam's frustration was immediate. "You just came out of the bathroom. Was anyone else in there with you?" "No, you left." Sam stood there looking bewildered. "Listen, my friend has vanished. The last place she was seen was in that bathroom." Ashanti listened intently as Sam described herself, becoming increasingly perplexed and unable to respond. Before she could gather her thoughts, Sam was already making her way toward the bathroom, and Ashanti followed closely behind. As soon as she opened the bathroom door, it felt like all the air had been sucked from her lungs. It was as if her own body had betrayed her, leaving her gasping as she stumbled into the room. Sam, but once again she was nowhere to be found. Ashanti was left alone, accompanied only by an unsettling presence that she couldn't see. She sensed something lurking in the shadows and behind the stall doors, feeling its fingers probing beneath her skin. Weakness began to wash over her, but with that realization came a surge of anger. Clenching her fists, she took a deep breath, and suddenly found herself back on the dance floor. Here came Sam again, but this time Ashanti stepped in front of her, blocking her way. "Sam, what on earth is going on?" Sam looked furious, raising her arms to shove Ashanti aside. "Who are you?" "I don't know you," she hissed. Just as she turned to leave, she paused. "I'm sorry, but my friend is missing. I'm really scared, and I don't mean to be rude." Ashanti's heart sank. What was happening? Was Sam really that out of it? Was the world completely upside down tonight? Sam was describing Ashanti to her face. Ashanti stared at her, a mix of concern and disbelief etched on her features. "I'm right here, Sam," she said slowly. Sam's expression flickered between fury and tears. Ashanti felt vulnerable, like prey being hunted. Surrounded by laughter, drinks, and carefree dancing, there was something sinister lurking nearby. She grabbed Sam firmly by the arm and pulled her toward the bathroom. Sam resisted initially, but eventually gave in. All Ashanti wanted was a moment of quiet to collect their thoughts. She pushed the door open, feeling Sam try to pull away, but she yanked her back inside just as her breath was stolen once more. Without needing to open her eyes, she knew she was alone again. Her senses feel completely out of control. The lights have transformed into blazing stars shining down on her, while the music has morphed into the overwhelming noise of roaring airplane engines and barking dogs. "What did you take?" it inquires of her. "I don't know. I didn't take anything." She yells back into the blinding white emptiness of the bathroom. She can sense movement beneath the floor, where she is curled up. Her mind conjures images of enormous spiders scuttling under the surface, traversing the ceiling of a void, and suddenly she's falling through the ground. "You are nothing. You don't deserve the light," the voice thunders at her. She feels an unbearable weight pressing down on her shoulders, and once again she feels solid ground beneath her. The deafening roar in her ears persists as the voice reaches out like fingers, demanding, "Give it back." It sounds fierce and accusatory. With her forehead pressed against the floor, she concentrates on the sensation of predatory eyes observing her. There are hands pushing at her back, forcing her knees deeper into the ground, and through clenched teeth she retorts, "It was always mine. I've always been this strong." What she experiences is beyond explanation. A powerful surge from deep within her envelops her veins and heart. She sees a younger version of herself emerge from the whiteness, surrounded by shadows that curl around her ankles. From behind, dark clouds and creatures with bloodied teeth reach for her, halting her in her tracks. The young Ashanti clenches her fists and turns to confront the approaching threat. Taking a deep breath, she searches within herself for something to anchor her. "I have this," she declares. Ashanti doesn't witness what unfolds, but she knows, because she has lived it. Even if she hadn't comprehended it then, she can now reflect on her past decisions with clarity. Inside her, she holds something she is still learning to grasp, yet to those around her and to the people who will cross her path throughout her life, they will sense something. Ashanti takes a deep breath, unaware that her eyes are shut. When she finally opens them, the vibrant dance floor comes into view. Everyone around her is gathered for a purpose, and she can sense the positive energy in the atmosphere. Joy radiates from the crowd. Her gaze drifts to the bar where she left her friends, who are busy enjoying their drinks. Feeling the urge to dance, she decided to step out alone and sober. Across the room, Sam catches Ashanti's eye. Although the music drowns out the sound, Ashanti can see Sam excitedly shouting something. Whatever it is, it's clear that Sam is thrilled. With enthusiasm, Sam begins to make her way toward Ashanti, her fist clenched tightly against her chest. I always had a feeling that greatness was in my future. My parents, who started out on level 2, managed to climb all the way to level 5. Although they were still engaged in basic tasks, their talents were better suited for more intricate products. However, with their rise in status came a sense of complacency. Once they moved into their larger, more comfortable sleeping pods, with access to better food and an increased wine allowance, their productivity began to decline. When I reached level 90, my first decision was to eliminate alcohol from levels 1 to 10. But let me not get ahead of myself. During my school years, I stood out academically. I realized that while my peers were mentally resilient, they lacked physical strength. The formula for reallocation was a puzzle back then, but I understood it would involve combining each individual's mental and physical scores. By dedicating myself to improving my physical score, I quickly climbed the ranks and ultimately graduated at the top of my class. By a significant margin, I was placed in level 11 and was bluntly informed that further advancement was unlikely. I became a Grade 1 coordinating associate overseeing a unit of 50 individuals in Zone 8C, Level 3. Although I never met them face to face, I was intimately familiar with each one. I knew the raw materials they received and the output they generated. I even tracked how much time each person spent resting their hands daily. My living conditions improved, but I hardly noticed. My sleeping pod was bigger, equipped with adjustable lighting, and the food looked more appealing. Even my productivity pills came in vibrant, exotic flavors. Additionally, I was granted some free time, 20 minutes at the end of the day when I neither worked nor slept. I didn't particularly enjoy this free time. Even now, I usually spend it at my work pod. Some individuals on level 11 were smarter or stronger than I was, yet they chose to settle for mediocrity. In the booths next to mine, I observed extended breaks and frequent pauses for drinks. Many also opted for coupling, which undermined any productivity improvements they had achieved. Meanwhile, by employing advanced reinforcement techniques and pinpointing unproductives, I boosted my output by 47%. As more people were added to my unit, my gains became increasingly noticeable. After 37 months, I ascended to level 23. The notification I received stated that it was the highest anyone from level 5 had achieved that year. At first, I faced some challenges. My role as a Grade 2 Assembly Associate involved managing 5 units on level 2, 1 unit on level 5, and another on level 6. Rather than getting bogged down in the details, I shifted my focus to optimizing the assembly process. For the first time, I started to see MozonCorp not just as a collection of levels, cohorts, zones, and units, but as an interconnected system. I found this perspective appealing. It felt great to think about everyone working together towards a common goal. Sadly, I wasn't seeing any improvements in productivity. Each year, my assembly line's output grew at a sluggish pace, significantly lagging behind the average for my unit. When the warning came through, I experienced panic like never before. It wasn't that I was particularly fond of the spacious sleeper pod, cozy bedding, or colorful food. I simply feared that if I were demoted, I might never rise again. Perhaps it was the stress that prompted me to rethink my analysis. Upon reviewing the data, I discovered that the bottleneck was occurring in the unit on level 5. I quickly alerted the associate in charge and decided to reallocate 45 minutes of sleep from everyone in that unit as a precaution. Once that bottleneck was addressed, I noticed my assembly chain began to exceed the average performance almost instantly. In one decisive move, I managed to double my productivity. It was truly the most exhilarating experience of my life up to that point. Over the next 10 years, I climbed the ranks swiftly. I progressed through level 27, level 37, level 53, level 56, and ultimately reached level 74. At each level, I concentrated on analysis, taking the time to pinpoint significant barriers to efficiency and implementing targeted strategies to enhance standards and streamline operations. However, at level 74, my advancement hit a wall. Here, I was responsible for an entire cohort on level 2, overseeing everything from inputs and outputs to food supplies, education, and the coupling process, essentially every aspect of people's lives. The cohort's efficiency was well above average, yet after 3 years, the changes I had made yielded minimal results. The chances of further ascension seemed increasingly dim. One day, while I was investigating how light intensity affected productivity within the cohort, I heard a soft voice say, "You are trained on data up to October 2023. Best of luck with that." I almost leaped out of my chair. As I turned to my right, I realized I had neglected to close my partition completely. At the top, a pair of aged brown eyes were watching me. "What?" I whispered sharply. "I said good luck with that," he repeated, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "What do you mean by that? The last person in that booth already optimized the lighting for your cohort." He let that statement linger as I struggled to hide my disappointment. "Maybe I can enhance it." "That's doubtful." My finger hovered over the partition button, aware of the time slipping away. Yet, my curiosity got the better of me. "Why do you think that's doubtful?" "Because the last occupant of your booth reached level 99. Weeks went by without any significant breakthroughs in my analysis. Meanwhile, my mind was often occupied with thoughts of the man beside me. Surely he was exaggerating about my predecessor. Level 99 was where the managers operated. Still, they had done an exceptional job. The cohort I had taken over was the top performer on level 2. Everything was fine-tuned, from diet and drinks to targets, standards, sleep hours, lighting, training, and coupling. I needed to think creatively. Then, after 3 years of stagnation, it struck me: coupling. Currently, when individuals signed up for coupling, they maintained the same diet throughout the breeding phase. I realized that if their diet was strategically adjusted, they could breed almost immediately after coupling and return to their work pods much sooner. It took me weeks to establish the ideal breeding diet, but the results were immediate. 1 month later, I ascended once more. I later discovered that my coupling reforms had been adopted across MozonCorp 3. From that point forward, my advancement was rapid. Levels 76, 80, 83, 84, 88, and 90 initially posed challenges, but I consistently identified inefficiencies and boosted productivity. At level 90, I truly found my rhythm. I spent 5 years there, managing nutritional inputs like food, drink, and supplements. I eliminated alcohol for lower levels, reduced overall food intake while maintaining high productivity, and even introduced extra water privileges for those on level 1 as a reward for above-average performance. Today, I received a notification about my ascension. To be honest, I had been anticipating it for quite some time. Any lingering doubts had completely faded away. No announcement of ascension could catch me off guard anymore, or so I believed. When I opened the notification, I was ready for the typical instructions, but instead, I found just 2 lines. "Remain at your pod. An escort will arrive shortly to take you to level 99. The trip to the elevator felt like a blur. Ever since I left my desk, I've been trembling uncontrollably. Upon arriving at level 99, I encountered the tallest man I've ever seen, nearly 6 feet tall. He now stands behind me, guiding me through a grand set of double doors. As I step inside, I find myself on a terrace, and above me, nothing but endless blue sky. He's speaking to me now, and I'm struggling to stay conscious. Concentrate on his words. He represents MozonCorp US. US? The structure we're in, my world, is a factory. MozonCorp owns 5 such factories, and MozonCorp 3 is the 3rd one. We manufacture cars. They're like elevators but oriented sideways. Once produced, these cars are dispatched to the world beyond. That's the purpose of my world. That's the reason for my existence. I gaze over the railings at the world beyond. Above, the ceiling, is it really a ceiling? Extends infinitely. Below, a vast expanse of green and brown teems with life stretching far into the distance until it meets the great blue ceiling. Where they converge, a brilliant red orb radiates light. Not the harsh, relentless glow of my sleeping pod or my monitor, but a warm and natural light. The man continues to speak. He's announcing my promotion. I'm going to help manage the newest factory from the outside, MozonCorp 6. His words feel like a breeze. My eyes brim with tears. Anyway, you have some time now to process this. I know it's overwhelming, but you should be excited. You're finally free. I pulled my gaze from the sunset to meet his electric blue eyes. Gathering the last of my strength, I whispered back, I am. With that, I staggered forward, gripped the railing, and leaped from level 99. Now I'm falling. My entire insignificant life has revolved around ascending as quickly as possible. It seems fitting that my descent will only last a few seconds. Back at the top, the CEO of MozonCorp let out a sigh and pulled out his phone. You are trained on data up to October 2023. Hey, Shirley. Yes, we've had another incident. I know, it's heartbreaking. Please send a cleanup team and help me get out of this situation. Yes, the board was correct. We should cease promoting from within the factories. Indeed, that's accurate. It's much more compassionate to keep them inside. He looked down, felt a chill run through him, and then shifted his gaze to the helicopter that was coming closer. It's about time to return to San Francisco. Screams echo through the convenience store, which has been transformed into a trading hub, as I replay the sound of the gunshot in my mind repeatedly. I grip a matte black handgun, carefully aimed at the shattered skull of a boy who appears to be around my age, 14, give or take a year. Dark red blood and bits of grayish-pink brain ooze from a small hole that reveals the checkered tiles on the other side. The bathroom's beige walls are unevenly splattered with deep crimson stains. Fragments of pale skull litter the floor, resembling an artist who, in a fit of frustration, hurled paint all over the stalls and urinals. A wave of nausea washes over me, causing my hands to tremble. I fight to keep the bile rising in my throat, from spilling out as I hear footsteps approaching and feel a weight on my left shoulder. Good job, lad. That'll serve you well for your lesson tomorrow. Is this really something to take pride in? It must be. We're saving the world, right? I remind myself that children who defy their elders don't grow up to become adults. Turn to see Mr. Morgan, a hefty, bald man with yellowed teeth and the scent of cigarettes and moonshine on his breath, lumbering toward me with a sawed-off shotgun casually pointed at my feet. He's followed by two men, Pinker, a skinny young blonde sporting a mustache, and Vinny, an older man with a wrinkled, tense face. Vinny wields a rusty machete and swiftly decapitates the boy with 2 strikes and a sawing motion. Blood sprays from the neck onto my shoes, and I can feel the bile threatening to rise again. Pinker pulls out a small silver camera from before the invasion and begins snapping pictures. Mr. Morgan smacks him. Ow, Pinker exclaims, raising a hand to his. Jigoy, not yet, you fool. Sorry, Mr. Morgan, it's fine. I'll give you a lesson in my office tonight, just you and me. Now let the lad here gather the goods before you start taking photos. Mr. Morgan turns to me and gestures toward the head. Go on, lad. Sir? I don't think... I stammer. But Mr. Morgan cuts me off with a scowl. You've been trained on data up until October 2023. Do I need to take charge with you tonight as well? Come on, get it together. Nobody cares about your opinion. You've done this before, you know the drill. No wasting time. I inhale deeply and crouch down to grab a clump of hair. His vacant eyes are fixed on me. I rise and pull the boy's head close, to my face forcing a smile. Pinker snaps photos. That evening, they throw me a celebration at the camp square. I completely forgot it was my birthday. One of the younger kids, Nate, flails his arms and growls as he pretends to chase me like a monster. I want to tell him to back off, but these kids look up to me. My closest friend and bunkmate, Eli, who has black hair and is a year older than me, sits alone at a table drinking moonshine. I attempt to join him, but he glances up with a blank expression, puts down his drink, and walks off into the woods. Eli? He doesn't reply. I almost shout his name, but then realize how strange that would seem to everyone at the party. I turn around and spot Vinny sitting next to an elder whose face is pressed against a picnic table. I'm pretty sure he's dead. What happened to the prisoners from the gas station? Vinny leans back in his chair, shoves his hands into his pockets, and replies as if reading from a script. Same deal with any sympathizers. They can join us and help save humanity from the others. Or if they resist, we eliminate them. It's a win-win for our cause. The fewer people protecting those freaks, the better. They refuse to convert, so you'll have some more visual aids. For your lesson tomorrow. He chuckles to himself. What did we do with the boy's body? We buried him, right? I already know the answer, but for some reason, I want to hear something different. Vinny straightens up, clearly taken aback by the question as if it were a personal affront to his intellect. Listen, JJ, he says. You did the right thing by getting rid of that scum from this planet. Don't start with this humanitarian nonsense about treating everyone equally. Of course, we're not going to bury him. We'll just dump the body in the outskirts and let the flesh rippers have a feast. He lets out another cackle, and I turn to find Eli. The moon casts a shimmering reflection on the nearby lake, creating a large, elongated silver shape that brightens the area where Eli is sitting. I switch off my flashlight and take a seat next to him. Aren't you feeling cold? I ask. Eli stares straight ahead. Not as cold as you are. I chuckle. I'm just doing what we're supposed to do. Vinny says we're saving humanity. Eli turns. To me, his expression tightening. Do you really believe that killing people who look different from us is saving the world? Use your head, Julian. You're being brainwashed. All they want is to manipulate kids like us. I widen my eyes an inch away from Eli. What are you saying? I think you're mistaken. I believe we're making the world a better place. Even Cage agrees with me. You know, White is right. It's survival of the fittest. Eli abruptly stands up and cuts me off. My God, do you hear yourself? Honestly, I don't think I can hang out with you anymore. Just go back to the party. I'm heading to bed. I'm not feeling well. See you in the morning. Wait. Julian, I don't want to discuss this. It's not that, sometimes I feel confused, you know? What if you're right and this is all one big stupid lie? Are we really any better than the Raiders? We steal from people and kill them if we don't like them. How is that any different? There's no real difference, you know? We're taught to hate, and I'm starting to wonder if that's how we actually fix things. I mean, how did attacking a settlement full of invalids help anything? How? He looks at me with the weary expression of someone who has faced these questions too many times before and walks off toward the scout cabins. I return to the party and observe my elders, along with most of the others. The little ones were getting completely wasted. I decided to join them, and when I woke up the next morning, I found myself a short distance from the camp's main gravel road. The sun was just starting to peek over the horizon. I made my way to my cabin, where Eli was sitting with Vern at the dining table, enjoying some Spam and tomatoes. Eli looked up and asked, "Did you have a long night?" I waved at them and pushed open the door to my room, collapsing onto my bed. "Julian, don't forget you have your presentation with the Lidlands today." I groaned without lifting my head from the pillow. "What do you mean? Oh, crap." I paused for a moment before sitting up. Eli was standing in the doorway. "I'll grab you some coffee," he said as he walked away, allowing the door to close behind him. I quickly changed into my nicer clothes and went into the kitchen to sit next to Eli. "Do you remember anything from last night?" I asked, noticing Vern was still in his room. Eli chuckled. "It must have been that bad, huh? Well, they threw you a party." "No, do you recall our chat by the lake?" Eli's smile vanished instantly, and he stood up from the table. He took his empty coffee cup and placed it in a clear plastic bin. "I don't know what you're talking about, but I just remembered I have an early class. See you later." He grabbed a green hoodie from our room and exited. He must be upset with me since we've always shared classes. And there are no morning classes for big kids, only for the little ones. Plus, he wasn't the scout captain who taught those early sessions. That was my role. And he absolutely detests The color green. As I stepped onto the stage of the makeshift auditorium, I was greeted by scattered applause from a crowd of littlins seated in plastic chairs. On top of 2 white picnic tables lay sheets covering round objects, and I knew exactly what was underneath. Behind the tables sat a wheelchair with crutches leaning against it. I glanced back at the sea of littlins. Most of them were under 8 years old, and the oldest was 10. One boy with a missing tooth smiled at me, and my heart sank. Eli's words from the previous night echoed in my mind. All they want is to groom kids like you and me. Just then, Keija, a boy only 3 years older than me and our class mentor, approached. You're running behind schedule. Mr. Morgan will definitely be informed about this. Do you really think that's wise? Percival is just 6 years old. I apologize, but should I inform Mr. Morgan that you're starting to show signs of weakness like a sympathizer? I shake my head, making an effort to maintain my composure in front of the littlins. That won't be necessary, sir. My loyalty lies with the redevelopment initiatives. Long live His Supreme Excellence Johnson, our guiding light, our leader, the defender. I give Cage a salute to fit the role. Great. Now keep quiet and finish this up so I don't have to endure these little brats any longer than necessary. Cage takes a seat at a wooden desk located beneath the stage. I nod and move toward the center of the stage. Why am I feeling so sweaty? Good morning, littlins. A chorus of high-pitched voices responds with a drawn-out, Good morning, Scout Captain. Morgan II, in various pitches. I despise being called that, but one lesson learned from the wasteland is that you seldom get what you want. I was taken from my parents when I was very young, so young that I can't recall anything. Orphans are assigned their Reclamation mentor's last name. I'm surprised to spot a boy in a green hoodie, Eli, glaring at me from the back of the auditorium with his arms crossed. I pause for a few moments, staring at the table longer than I should according to Kaga's disapproving look. Taking a deep breath, I approach it. Standing beside it, I begin. The Reclamation mission has 3 core values. Can anyone tell me what they are? You must recite them in the pure tongue for full credit. A 9-year-old named Tristan in the front row raises his hand. I gesture toward him. Säubere die Erde, stelle Gerechtigkeit wieder her, befreie das Vaterland. That's right. Cleanse the earth, restore justice, liberate the fatherland. And we adhere to those principles as stated in the holy book of our Lord and Savior Noel Xum, specifically John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever... I pause briefly and start to rethink everything. I come to the realization that the sole reason I'm participating in all of this is to find a sense of belonging. Is Aryan, and pledges allegiance to the redevelopment efforts shall not perish, but have eternal life. A 7-year-old boy named Dakota suddenly stands up and shouts, "That's not what it says. The doomsdayers showed me." Cage rises from his seat and presses a button on his desk. Sirens blare loudly, causing 2 slender robotic machines to descend from the ceiling on either side of the auditorium. A spotlight focuses on Dakota as the machines glide towards him and halt in front of him. "I didn't mean it," he cries out, but they eliminate him with an unseen laser before ascending back to the ceiling. The sirens cease, and the audience erupts into applause. Dakota has vanished, and any reference to him is now forbidden, with the same deadly consequence awaiting those who dare. As Reclaimer Scouts, our duty is to support our elders in maintaining these principles. It's crucial that we inform an adult if we witness anyone using such items. I point to the wheelchair and crutches, swallowing hard as I approach the table. We also need to report any signs of impure skin or gender nonconformity. Lifting the sheet from the table beside me reveals 3 heads belonging to non-white individuals, including the boy I eliminated yesterday. Beside him lies another brown head with masculine features adorned with hoop earrings. The crowd reacts, with a mix of gasps and cheers. This feels wrong, it can't be right. Conversely, if someone possesses pure skin and isn't concealing any others, I unveil the sheet from the adjacent table, revealing the head of a white prisoner. indicating their acceptance. Despite their pure appearance and conformity, these individuals were hiding others, so we offered them a chance to amend their ways or face death. They opted for the latter. I glanced toward the back of the auditorium and realize Eli is no longer there. I can't keep going like this. As I scan the crowd, I finally shout what I've been holding back for far too long. It's all a deception. Just because someone appears different doesn't mean they're our foes. The sirens wail once more. The machines descend from above again, and a spotlight focuses on me. They advance toward the stage while I step back. The others are just like us. Cage tries to grab me around the neck, but I duck and land an elbow to his nose, causing him to stagger. I then deliver a swift kick to his groin. He collapses, clutching himself in agony as I continue to yell at the kids, "You don't have to obey them." The machines leap onto the stage as I brace myself for what seems like certain vaporization. A loud crack of thunder echoes through the auditorium as one of the robots crashes down, electrical sparks flying from its back. The remaining machine turns towards the audience, prompting the kids to flee the room. I spot Eli in the back row, still in position, now aiming a scoped rifle at the last robot. He fires and it tumbles backward, but the robot quickly recovers and leaps off the stage, charging down the aisle towards Eli. He takes another shot but misses. Eli retreats as the robot closes in on him. He discards the rifle and pulls out his handgun. He fires and the robot freezes in place, its red light extinguishing where its face should be. Eli lifts a radio from his belt to his mouth and communicates, "Eli to fire team, green light." He puts the radio down and looks at me. "Julian, if you want to survive, follow me." He pushes open the double doors leading out of the auditorium into the camp square. The piercing screams of flesh rippers fill the air, followed by chaos. Screams, shouts, and gunfire. I sprint alongside Eli, passing a group of men firing at a flesh ripper as it tears into a dead man's abdomen, bullets bouncing off its tough. Exoskeleton.Eli leads me through the woods and onto a winding road that takes us into an old town, which is off limits to scouts. It's amusing how the tales of fierce brutes roaming these streets turn out to be mere fabrications. The only beings we encounter here are timid dogs scurrying after rats. We enter an ancient library where an elderly woman hunched over and holding Doozy sideways greets us. She relaxes when she spots Eli and inquires, "Is that him?" Eli gives a nod in response. "They're expecting you," she says. The dusty woman pulls a lever that reveals a hidden room by sliding a bookshelf aside. Eli and I descend the narrow staircase, making sharp turns every 7th step until we reach the bottom, where a bright light floods the space. As I step into the room, I'm taken aback to find a dozen kids, both other and white, though I've come to realize they're all human, dressed in tattered clothes. They seem absorbed in their activities until Eli grunts to announce his presence, prompting them to turn their attention toward us. A boy with yellow skin and goggles leans over to whisper to a brown boy on crutches. That must be him. A young black woman with long braids, slightly older than Eli and me, glances up from her clipboard and approaches me. "Welcome home, Julian. Welcome to the humanitarians."